What's up, ego hackers? This is C.S. Joseph, and this is season 23, episode 8. How to parent ENTPs, also known as the rogues, also known as the originator type, and the visionary, etc. Also, my type. It's about time I get to this. Gosh, parenting ENTPs is really hard. Really hard. Other than ENTPs, obviously INTJs are also very hard to parent as well because they're so misunderstood. Granted, you could argue that any of the 16 types could be misunderstood. But regardless of my personal bias, I maintain, and so do those who mentored me, that the ENTP archetype is absolutely hands down the most difficult to raise. And it's because they are so misunderstood. That being said, regardless of you as a parent understanding your ENTP child or not, doesn't matter, because when it comes to child rearing an ENTP, there is a specific process you follow regardless of your level of understanding. And it's funny, actually, I was on Facebook recently, and there was this meme that was on it talking about how there are so many people out there who go out of their way to understand others, to every inch, every detail of the people that they care about and the people that they respect. Which, yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. But the thing is that the reason they do this is because they so desperately want to be understood by others. And this is literally the life of an ENTP, and it starts immediately in childhood, completely, immediately. And it's so interesting because you can watch an ENTP try to understand other people, and they often do fail, especially in the face of their FI trickster, because they don't know how to weigh things out. They don't know what they value. So, like, okay, sure. But, you know, I'm 33 years old. I'll be turning 34 very soon. And most people like don't understand that I don't know any of that. I don't. And even now at 34, like, there's my FI trickster. I just don't know the value of things. I just don't know what I value. And that's why, it's because from my point of view, I see value as something that's completely and utterly arbitrary. 100% arbitrary. This is why, you know, oftentimes ENTPs end up being derided or demonized by their affiliative family members for being so, I guess, not so cavalier, but more like, roguish. A rogue when it comes to rules, because to me, a lot of rules are arbitrary. Completely arbitrary. And, you know, there are people who are enforcing those rules who I maintain through my TI parent, they are completely entitled. This is why I typically have a problem with affiliative people, because affiliative people are oftentimes entitled to authority because they reason within their own minds, hey, you know, I'm going out of my way to do the right thing, but Chase isn't. Because Chase isn't doing the right thing, but I'm doing the right thing, I'm entitled to have authority over Chase. This is literally how my entire family works. There's very few people who are pragmatic. It's interesting that all of the sons within my generation of my family, they are all, the grandchildren basically, they're all pragmatic. All of them. And all of the daughters are too, with the exception of 2. So pragmatism within my generation ended up being the majority. But in every other generation, even amongst the generation after me within my family, it's all affiliative. All of it. And I still maintain that I'm a minority even within my own family. And that's the thing about raising an ENTP child. You as a parent need to know your child is a minority. In fact, your child is a minority of the minority. Oftentimes, the MBTI statistics claim that the INFJ is actually the rarest of all of the types. But within some of my own studies that I have conducted, as well as some studies of some people that are close to me who utilize the type grid and typing people within different subsets of people, although, let's be honest, you have to take all of those studies with a grain of salt, a huge grain of salt. But based on, how I walk through life and other people walk it through life that understand the type grid and are typing people consistently, they record that information based on, date, time, gender, approximate age, etc. One can actually make an argument that the ENTP archetype is actually the rarest. You can make the argument. This is also further supported that within my coaching practice, I often have people, when I'm verifying their type, they often come to me thinking that they are ENTPs, but they're actually INFJs. It's so interesting, and sometimes I have people who are INFJs coming to find out that they're actually ENTPs. And that really, really bothers a lot of people. I mean, rightfully so. The first time I ever took the MBTI test, and I remember the very first time, I scored ENTP. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Actually, let me correct that. I scored INFJ the first time. And then after that, I scored INTJ a bunch. It wasn't until I actually knew who I was, knew that I was an ENTP, that I actually started scoring ENTP. It's funny how that works. Really funny. I guess, we're all victims of confirmation bias in our own time, right? So, your ENTP child, guess what? They are a minority. They are a minority. And not only that, they are a dangerous minority because an ENTP exists to threaten the system. There's no one more anti-establishment than an ENTP. Hitler was an ENTP. Benjamin Franklin was an ENTP. These men are very similar. Well, with Benjamin Franklin, he was the mastermind behind an ENTP, the mastermind behind the American Revolution. And I maintain that he coordinated and funded through his junto, which was his own secret society that he founded or co-founded, that they set up and they funded the Sons of Liberty with Samuel Adams, which led to the Boston Massacre and the Boston Tea Party and the shot heard round the world at Lexington and Concord. Benjamin Franklin was the author of the entire American Revolution, and it came from him. It originated with him more than anyone, and he is an ENTP. You can see how dangerous ENTPs are. And then look at Adolf Hitler. With his ISFJ subconscious, because he's so ISFJ focused, he became a war hero in World War I. Then he got very angry because of the Treaty of Versailles. Very angry about how society was showing favoritism to certain people groups, which is what he stated in his book, Mein Kampf, which means my struggle. And then as a result of that, he engineered situations like the burning of the Reichstag, for example, which was the German Capitol building. It's like their version of the White House, or maybe the version of the actual Capitol building. I don't know, their parliament, whatever. The Reichstag was burned down, and he blamed it on the opposition, made it look like the opposition did it, right? Perhaps just like how Benjamin Franklin, men working for him in the Sons of Liberty were the ones who fired the first shot that started the American Revolution, huh? Although it was never confirmed which side fired the first shot. But I highly doubt the British military did. I highly doubt that. Especially after the Boston Massacre, right? Why would the British military make that mistake twice? I don't think they would. So, the Sons of Liberty under the command of Samuel Adams, probably had a plant inside Lexington and Concord militia, Minutemen, basically, who fired the first shot. And just like the Reichstag was burned down by the Nazi Party, so also was the American Revolution, sparked by the Sons of Liberty. All masterminded and coordinated by ENTP men, folks. ENTP men, or ENTPs, are so dangerous, and they threaten the system. They threaten the entire world system. They threaten society. They are a threat. They are also the most misunderstood, and in my opinion, and this is an opinion, and I haven't verified it yet, but getting closer to verifying it, I maintain that they are the single rarest of all the 16 types, and one of the main reasons why they are so misunderstood. Now, granted, you can make the argument about INFJs using the MBTI statistics, but over time, throughout my coaching practice, and typing so many people, while also reviewing a lot of statistics that we've been able to collect from the test and doing a comparative analysis, on top of comparing that to other information provided by some of my colleagues and contemporaries, it's looking more and more likely that the ENTP may actually be the rarest of all the types. It's a good chance. Super rare. Very good chance. How interesting. How interesting. I like to think, INJs would still be the rarest. But all I'm saying here, folks, is that the possibility exists. And if they're not the rarest, I'm okay with that. But they're still pretty freaking rare. And because of that, they are the minority, right? The ENTPs are the minority. So you have a psychological minority within your child. The problem is that human beings, due to cognitive projection, projecting their ego, projecting their subconscious, projecting their shadow or unconscious, projecting their superego onto other people, because their brains are trying to figure out who they can learn from and who they can have friendships with, as well as people that they should be romantically involved with for partners, etc. That whole cognitive projection system that is natural to our brains, we end up having expectations, social expectations built around those based on our children. For example, my father, when he was raising me, he projected his ISTP subconscious onto me, and he became unhappy with me not being so interested in mechanics. He's always trying to get me to go in the shop with him and work on a car all the time, but I just wasn't interested in that. And it hurt him, made him feel bad, caused his TE demon to, because, it's like I wasn't listening to him, so, about mechanics and whatnot, and because he loved working on cars with his dad, and his dad had a Porsche, and my dad loved that. He got so nostalgic about it. Templars do nostalgia, folks. He's an ENFJ. And based on that, he really wanted to have that same time with his son, just like he had with his dad, but he never got it. His TE demon came out because he had these expectations that I should be in mechanics. He'd call me lazy, make fun of me all the time. He would reduce me, shame me, because I wasn't interested in those manly things, right? Cognitive projection does a lot of damage to people. Cognitive projection is the source of prejudice. And in fact, it proves that every human being on this planet is prejudiced. Every human being prejudges people. And they prejudge based on the template of the four sides of their mind. The four sides, they're trying to find people like them, like their four sides, so they can establish those preferred relationships with those people. And my dad was trying to establish a preferred relationship. And guess how painful it is when to watch your own son reject you, and you have SE child. SE child does not do well with rejection. Of course, no Templar handles rejection very well. That's why there's all these cold approach pickup artistry courses and sources and books out there just for Templar types to help them get over rejection. Of course, INFJs have the hardest time with rejection, but still, all Templars struggle with rejection because they don't want to be rejected, right? Me, I'm a crusader. I don't care about rejection. Reject me because the next person won't. So, who cares? All you out there who get super mega sensitive with rejection, I find your lack of faith disturbing. I find it very disturbing. Maybe you should have a little bit more faith. Maybe you should recognize that there's a better tomorrow and that there's always someone better. There's always a better friend. There's always a better man. There's always a better woman. Always is. That's why there's no such thing as the one. There's no such thing as soulmates. It's a lie. It's bullshit. There's no such thing as the one. So since a lot of people really struggle with that, they end up making their partner, their wife, their husband, their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their idol. And they committed idolatry because of it. Folks, stop committing idolatry. There's no point. There's no such thing as soulmates. That too is a lie. A lie I used to buy into. And I regret it. I really, really do. But no longer. My mind has been freed from those shackles. Anyway. Cognitive projection leads to prejudice, prejudging. And thus it is a form of psychological racism, which means every human being out here is racist. Every human being everywhere is racist. They are all racist. You are racist. Everyone is racist. Everyone is prejudiced because of how our psyches work, right? And guess what? Because ENTPs are so anti-norm, they are so rogue, they're so naturally rogue, that, and they're going rogue all the time, they're going rogue so much with what they do that they end up being prejudiced against more than most of any of the types. I can't live my life one day without being judged severely by other people. They see how I live my life, like, wow, Chase, he's so fringe. He's so out there. He's so cringe, right? Because I'm cringe because I don't live my life like the rest of most people do. I don't care. I remember the day that I decided to be polyamorous and have multiple simultaneous sexual relationships with women. And I remember getting thrown out of my family for that, getting thrown out of my church for that, getting thrown out of my community for that, even though I knew that there was no rule stopping me from doing it. It's not even biblically incorrect as much as most people would like to claim it is. And it's not. It's not. It's not biblically incorrect. But then they use the Bible to cite the Bible, say, oh, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, that's just a bullshit interpretation. How about you understand that your interpretation is not the truth? Do you ever apply critical thinking to your interpretation? Gosh, this is why as children, ENTPs end up having, like, the biggest mouth. The biggest mouth all the time. What's a good example of an ENTP with a big mouth? Well, Ryan Reynolds' portrayal of Deadpool, of course. That guy's got a big mouth. A really big mouth. But the thing is, though, is that oftentimes, because we speak, our TI parent comes out, we speak, we have to deal with, teachers telling bullshit to us in schools when we challenge them on it, and then we end up in detention because we challenge them on it. No one is more free-thinking than an ENTP, right? Gosh, it's so hard to parent them. My mother had to get me out of detention often because I just provide challenge to literally everything. Rogue. Always rogue. Always, always rogue. It sucks being rogue. But it also has its benefits. Your child, your rogue child, what's so great about being rogue is that one thing you can know for sure, an ENTP will live their life. We will live, and we will live our lives to the fullest, because we won't allow your bullshit society to dictate to us how we live our life. Just like I'm not going to allow anybody, not my governor, not the president, not any authority on this planet, to dictate to me what I can or cannot put into my body. Like, you gonna force me to take a vaccine against my will? Really? You're really gonna do that? Wow. That ain't happening. Not to me. Not to me. Oh, but, the affiliate says that if you don't do that, you're harming fellow human beings, and that you're being really, really selfish. And I'm like, it's not about selfishness. It's about the standard of personal sovereignty. Personal sovereignty is something that an NTP would hold very dear. It's so interesting how Elon Musk, a fellow NTP, was out there talking about how, hey, I've been taking multiple COVID tests every single day. And some of them say positive and some of them say negative. What's going on here? It's kind of interesting watching Elon Musk kind of expose so much of the societal bullshit that we have to deal with on a regular basis, especially when it comes to COVID-19. I find that funny. I find that absolutely hilarious. But it's just interesting to me. He's providing challenge using his pragmatism, being independent. So, if you're a parent of an ENTP, they're going to be independent. That's just it. They're going to open their mouth. They're going to mouth off. They're going to be really mouthy. That's it. It's going to happen. They're going to challenge everything. They're going to challenge school. They're going to challenge you and your authority. Like, there's so much. They're going to challenge their church, their belief systems, everything. At first, they'll adopt them, though, because ENTP children actually present as ISFJ subconscious, and ISFJs are notorious for adopting, just like ESFJs, SFJs. SFJs are notorious for adopting belief systems without even verifying. And a young ENTP, as they are presenting in their subconscious within the context of their childhood, they will do this. They absolutely will do this. Yep, they will. They will adopt those beliefs. Like, I adopted church and Christianity and churchianity growing up. Oh, gosh. I remember being quite the altar boy. Ugh, let me go barf in a corner with all those pagan bullshit rituals in church. Those of you who go to church, I recommend you read Pagan Christianity by Frank Viola, and you literally find out just how pagan your church really actually is. You start to see that it's all a bullshit system and not actually one that's based on the Bible, because it's not. I mean, the order of worship, also known as the liturgy, is pagan. The pulpit itself is pagan. The office of the pastor is pagan. It's also known as sophistry. Delivering a sermon in that way every Sunday, that too is pagan. Do you guys not understand? The entire church process is pagan. It's a lie. But, let's just adopt belief systems and traditions without verifying why we have them, right? So that's one thing. As soon as TI parent starts waking up, you can count on with your ENTP child, they're going to verify. And if it doesn't match up with what they think is true, they're going to completely reject it. And that's why, me personally, I largely reject society. In fact, I opt out. I opt out of this society. This society is absolute bullshit. It is complete bullshit. And there's so many of you out there who think it's not bullshit. That bothers me. It really, really bothers me. No one understands. Like, how many laws are you breaking just by breathing or walking on the street? I'm wondering how many laws I've broken just walking around out here. You know what I'm saying? Right? Right? Did you guys know that the COVID-19 vaccine is being tracked by Peter Thiel's company Palantir, who created the Tiberius system for tracking people who have taken the vaccine and people who haven't, and that's actually a Trump initiative? You see what I'm saying? But, everyone's going to blame Biden for forcing mandatory COVID-19 vaccines on everybody, right? Can you guys understand that all of this is the same? It's all the same. Everyone's too busy pointing their fingers, oh, you're a leftist, or oh, you're a right-winger, when it's nothing more than controlled opposition. Society is falling apart at the seams around us, and anyone out there is too ignorant to understand. This is why I don't participate in society, and most ENTPs don't. Most of them don't. As soon as they get to a point where they're able to verify, as soon as they get to a point where they're able to meet their own needs, and they start thinking for themselves, because they're the most free-thinking of all the types, other than the ESTP, of course. And they start verifying. They start verifying society. Expert intuition hero demands that they are aware of society. And then all of a sudden, your little ENTP child is going to start speculating. My father would tell me all the time, wow, Chase, you're speculating on things you know nothing about. He was right. I was. But my speculation, expert intuition, prescient powers became so much more powerful as I got older that all of a sudden I started being right. And my predictions were correct. Predictions about companies falling apart and closing. Predictions about decisions being made by the government, or decisions being made by the school board or the local community or even the church. My predictions became accurate and continued every single day. But, my father would just see me as someone who was inaccurate with speculations before, so he's always inaccurate, right? No. It's a skill. It's a complete and utter skill. Anyway, why am I saying all this? I'm saying this that regardless if you have an ENTP boy or girl, they will be a challenge. And they will not just challenge you, they will challenge everything. And let me tell you, folks, in this wicked society, it's really hard to be proud of an ENTP child. It's really hard. Especially with all of your presuppositions, all of your conditioning that you have based on traditions and lifestyles that you yourselves have adopted without verifying. And yeah, your children will adopt them without verifying, but eventually they'll hit adolescence, and then they'll start verifying with their TI parent. They'll start to wake up. And it'll be probably fully grown when they're 24 to 27, 24 to 28. And then they won't care. And because the ENTP is so not accepted by society and not accepted by their family, and even though they're living truly, and they're living according to the truth that they have verified themselves, but because it's so counter to you, their parents, so counter to their family, so counter to their community, so counter to their church, so counter to society itself, guess what? They're going to lie to you. They're going to pretend. They're going to pretend to be like you, around you, because they already know, if they're any hero, that you won't even want them and you won't even value them, right? You won't want them and you won't value them because they're not like you, because they didn't adopt the family traditions or the family way of doing things or how the church does it or how society does it, because they are literally walking counterculture chaos agents. ENTPs bring chaos everywhere. We tear things apart because if it is able to be torn apart, it should not be allowed to stand. Just like ESTPs. ESTPs check the structural integrity. They are the integrity checkers. They need to find integrity, right? ENTPs are looking for order. We're agents of chaos because we need to bring chaos to things to see if the set order should be. Because if the set order can handle our chaos, then it is strong enough to exist. Order. The order could be rules. It could be society. It could be social norms. Right? Social norms like the nuclear family. Social norms like one woman for one man. Right? Social norms. Social norms like always pray before you eat, which there is no biblical requirement for that. That's just tradition. It's just tradition. Tradition is the corpse of wisdom. And it is your ENTP child will be seeking out wisdom and knowledge and ultimately truth their entire lives. And then when they find the truth, and they will find it, they will live in truth. The problem is when they live in truth, it will challenge your lies. It will challenge the lies of their parents. It will challenge the lives of their community, their church, everything. So they have to wear a mask to even be around you, just to humor you. Their parents. To humor you. They have to wear a mask because they know they can't be their true selves. They can't even share the truth that they have discovered throughout their lives because you, their parents, are so ignorant, or will be so ignorant, or will be clinging to your guns and your religion, quoting Obama when I say that. Not that I have any problem against those things, because I don't. People can cling to their guns and their religion all they want. I have a right that if I am put onto a jury, and I will tell the judge to his face that I will not vote as a juror based on the law, but I will do it under my conscience and my conscience alone, as is allowed under the Constitution of the United States. And I will make a vote as a juror based on my conscience regardless of the law. And that's when they escort me out. Think about that. You don't want someone like me on your jury. You don't want an ENTP on your jury. Then you get movies like Runaway Jury. John Cusack was being an ENTP during that film anyway. Right? He is an ENTP. So, understand that if you don't do things right as a parent, your ENTP will be forced against their will to be insincere and even insincere to you. You, the parent, will be creating the insincerity vice within your ENTP child. You, the parent, will be the reason why they are the best liars who walk the earth, and no one can lie better than they can. They will end up developing tools and strategies to, dissuade you, persuade you, hide from you, deceive you. You know, because the best lies are the lies that you can make come true, right? And if you can't make your lies come true, then what you do is you just mix truth, a little bit of truth in with the lies so that no one can tell the difference, right? And these are the skills that you will be instilling within your ENTP child because of what? Your lack of having an open mind as a parent? Really? Because you're expecting your children to follow these bullshit traditions that you adopted without verifying? Really? Wow. Wow. I guess that means you're bad parents then if you do that. I guess that means you're a failure of a parent if you do that. For your ENTP child, right? So funny, I bet a lot of philosophers, especially the INFPs, and the ENFPs, the NFPs watching this right now, like, oh, Chase is just projecting all the pain in his life into this lecture. Oh, no. I've had it better than most ENTPs. Trust me, there are other ENTPs out there who have had it far, far worse than I have. Far worse. See, I got lucky. I got lucky because I ended up homeless for years. And during that time, I was able to free my mind and free myself from the bullshit. And I've been trying to free my family from the bullshit ever since. So thankful that I married a fellow TI parent because she helps me free everyone that we know from the bullshit. We literally are taking shackles off of other people. The shackles that cause them to believe that the COVID-19 vaccine is going to actually help people. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not going to help. It's the new Manhattan Project, guys. You remember that the Operation Warp Speed is the new Manhattan Project. Don't you understand that the Manhattan Project led to the deaths of millions of people? Have you not seen the stories of these vaccine trials and people are dying from taking them? That's a thing. Research it. Look it up. Don't be ignorant. Have an open mind. An open mind. There is no one out there who has more of an open mind than the ENTP. The ENTP, even though they have TI parent, interesting, so stubborn, but yet they have the most open mind out there. Why is that? Because in order for TI parent to accept if something is actually true, they have to test and verify through experimentation that the anti-truth or the antithesis of their hypothesis is true. Which means when I'm telling you folks things, guys, and I'm telling you what's true and what's false, I have already looked at the anti. I've already looked at the polar opposite and tried to prove that the polar opposite was true. Oftentimes, I believed the polar opposite was true, only for me to completely reverse my position on it. This is interesting. This is why this position reversal is why an ENTP is known as a chaotic neutral type. One day save your life, the following day steal your car. And it's because we can make a 180-degree decision on a whim because we realize that what we thought was true before is not actually true. And thus our entire knowledge tower within ourselves is shattered and rebuilt in real time inside of us to accommodate the adjustment on what's true or false within our own minds. And on the outside, it makes it look like to other people that we're just changing our mind all the time, or that we're just, very flighty, or lacking in consistency. Gosh, I would like to say a huge F-you to my INFJ mentor who would constantly complain about lack of consistency in me all the time. And I'm like, no, I'm just realizing what's true. I've been living a lie my whole life. You need to give me the space and the room to change my mind, because my mind has changed based on me realizing everything I ever knew is bullshit. So how about giving me some respect? You know what I'm saying? There's that projecting those NFPs we're looking for. There's that projecting, guys. There's some projecting for you. Raising the ENTP is pretty hard. It's super hard. And if you're not on top of them right away, gosh, you could be raising the next Benjamin Franklin. You could be raising the next Adolf Hitler. That would be a problem. So you as parents, you need to be on top of that. You need to be on top of that. That's a cute dog. Not only that, here's another thing. Your child is going to be so discriminated because they are this huge psychological minority that they're going to be heavily mistreated. And what's even worse is that they're going to remember every single person that's ever mistreated them. And then their demon, their ESFP demon, will exact revenge on those people, sometimes decades later. Is that what you really want for your child? Huh? Is that what you really want? And like I was saying earlier, do you really want your child wearing a mask around you to the point where you don't even know your child because they have to put up a facade because they already know that you won't accept them because of your own closed-mindedness? Is that what you really want, parents? Parents of ENTPs? Is that what you really want? Is that what you're really going to do? Is it because you'd rather cling to your traditions and your ways of doing things like a crotchety old man who's stuck in his ways, instead of potentially having an open mind like your own ENTP child, such that you could possibly accept that what you know is not actually real? Are you going to keep taking the blue pill, or are you going to take the red pill? I'm quoting Morpheus from The Matrix. Think about that. There is no one more red pill. And when I say red pill, I'm not just talking the rational male books. I'm talking about anti-establishment, anti-matrix, trying to find out what reality actually is. And finding the reality, what reality is. Finding out what the truth is. An ENTP is going to find it, just like an ESTP is going to find it. TI parent is going to find it. What are you going to do? Are you going to listen to your ENTP, or are you going to force them to lie to your face every single day, every single time that you see them? Because I guarantee you, you may think you may know your son or daughter, but you don't. You don't know a damn thing. And all of your judgments that you've gained over the years because you think you know them, you don't. You only know what they allow you to see because they wear a mask. I wear a mask. Every time I communicate with my mother and father, every time, I adjust my personality to make myself more compatible with them so that they can stomach me. Even though if they knew the real me, they would be repulsed because I'm so counter to their lifestyle. And they have shunned me and rejected me because I haven't adopted that lifestyle, that culture like they have. Their sick, disgusting, gross culture. Their idolatrous culture. I hate their culture. I hate it. It makes me want to vomit. Well, SI inferior bad reactions to things like culture or ways of doing things or bullshit traditions, traditions being the corpse of wisdom. How about traditions based on truth? How about traditions based on actual wisdom? How about that, right? Well, not sure that'll happen. We'll see. We'll see. So, parents, if you don't want your children to lie to you, because, an ENTP, they can't do in between. They're either going to lie to you all the time, or they're going to lie to you none of the time. But can you really handle your ENTP child being so sincere with their sincere virtue that they're telling the truth about every little thing and pointing out every little detail and criticizing and nitpicking at everything? Can you honestly handle that? Can you? Well, you probably should, because the alternative is that you will never know them. They'll always be a mystery to you. The whole tall, dark, and handsome thing, that's an ENTP man. So mysterious. Always wearing monochromatic colors. Blacks, grays, navy blues. Comfy, but hidden. Always hidden in the shadows. You will put your son and your daughter even more into the shadows because you can't accept the truth that they teach or that they know. That's not to say that an ENTP can't be ignorant. They can be some of the most ignorant of all the types, because if they adopted belief systems or traditions without verifying them first, well, then you have someone who is a horror, an absolute horror of a person. Horror, not horror. Oh wait, that can be a thing too. Gosh, so many ENTP girls with their OnlyFans accounts making money. So many. Is that really what you want for your daughter, right? Because they have this point of view, well, if I'm going to do the time, I may as well do the crime. If this is how society is going to treat me anyway, so I may as well participate and get all the benefit out of it, I guarantee you that they don't want to do that, but some of them often feel like they don't have a choice because of how bullshit this society is. Now, bullshit and how their parents participate in this bullshit society. Also another problem. So, I've just outlined a lot of the problems and challenges of being a parent to an ENTP child. These are some serious problems. But let's talk about some solutions. What can you as a parent do to prevent these things from happening? The problem with, one of the main issues with a ENTP is that they have to trial and error through everything in their life. They have an INTJ shadow. This means that they oftentimes, especially when they're young, they feel like they're like the hare. And I say the hare like the tortoise and the hare. They think they have all the talent in the world, but in reality, they don't have any talent. Their INTJ shadow believes that they have talent, but they don't. They're talentless. They can't learn from other people's mistakes, which is often where talent comes from. Extroverted sensing, performance talent, that's what I'm referring to, is by being aware of the mistakes other people make and learning from those mistakes. But an ENTP has extroverted sensing demons, so it is impossible for an ENTP to learn from other people's mistakes. They must learn from their own mistakes. It's the only way. So because of this, they oftentimes end up believing the lie that they have talent. Then they try things thinking they succeed, and then they don't. Kind of like that episode in ReZero where Subaru, through the witch, Echidna, sends him into this dream world where he gets to meet his parents again. And he talks about how he used to have all the talent in the world as a youngster. Then as he got older, he lost all that talent. Well, that's an ENTP. I was king of the school when I was 5 years old. I was the most popular person in my school in kindergarten. I was the man. I had all of the friends. I had everything. And it was all taken away from me the following year. I lost all that talent. It was gone. People could run faster than me all of a sudden. I was the fastest runner. Used to be. People could run faster than me. I was getting fat. Was always picked last. I became a loser. And I remained a loser until I was 18. And even then I was still a loser. Some bullshit beta male loser. So that became a problem. This is very typical for ENTPs. And they only learn through trial and error. They have to have all of the space to make every possible mistake in the world. So remember, Jungian parenting. It is everyone's responsibility to parent people. Not just children, people. And not just your children and not just your people. It is everybody's responsibility to parent everyone. You see someone screwing up, you need to call them out. Use your parent function. Parent them with it, right? I guarantee you, your TI parent of a child will do that. I guarantee you they will. They'll start parenting other people. They'll open their mouth. Yeah, it's not going to be accepted because who accepts the truth, right? It's so interesting how easily ENTPs are exiled from society, that they just decide to opt out from society because of this silent exhalation from society itself. I wonder if that's why John the Baptist, an ENTP, decided to live in the wilderness for so long. I wonder if that's why. Because he was opting out from society. Because he realized how bullshit society was. He didn't want to have anything to do with it, being all TI parent. And even he knew from his extroverted feelings, self-deprecation, that he was unfit to tie the shoes of the one being Jesus, the Son of God. Interesting. And this is an ENTP who's opted out of society. Something I recommend a lot of people consider doing and start considering doing now. So based on that, Jungian parenting. To parent a child, there's two phases. You can raise them, and that's phase one, and that's pre-adolescence. And then adolescence to post-adolescence, that is when you teach them. And you really, really have to do this with an ENTP. remember, oftentimes parents, especially in Western society, are outsourcing the parentage of their children. And they're outsourcing it to daycare or preschool or school, etc. Thank God for distance learning, forcing children to stay at home to be around their parents more. It's benefiting them heavily. I wonder if the powers that be just understand how dangerous distance learning actually is. For one, they've already pissed off the parents because parents are forced to work. Both adults are forced to work because the dollar lacks enough buying power within this society to allow for just one adult to work and bring home the bacon, etc. Because, 2 minimum wage jobs is not enough to handle, because for one, they're usually not full-time. But even if they are, that's still not enough to handle 2 adults and 1 child and still actually have a home. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. And then distance learning, this child has to stay at home. And if the parents both worked at Wendy's and Starbucks, for example, where they can't be at home with their child, that presents a problem. So already they piss off the parents. So the parents somehow have to figure out some way to make ends meet. And they are, right? They have to. So the children are being taught by their parents again instead of by the establishment. Ooh, I can't wait until that generation comes of age and challenges the establishment that much more. Gosh, it will lead to a literal war. It will lead to a war, and they have no idea that they are sowing the seeds for that war, and it's coming. It's coming. Mark my extrovert intuition hero words. War is coming. So, parents, your ENTP child needs to be raised. And how you raise a child is that you focus on developing their inferior function as quickly as possible and as much as possible. It is so crucial for an ENTP. Gosh, I wish I had this from my parents. I did not. My parents outsourced my education. And my mom would also drag me to church all the time. So in the times that I wasn't in school, I was being entertained or taught at church. And I didn't really have much of a relationship with either of my parents. And then because our schedule was Monday mornings, go into the church. And this is, and this is before I started regular school. Monday morning, go to the church. My mom's running the office, okay? And then Tuesday, same thing. But then there was choir practice, and then there was dance practice for the dance team, right? And then Wednesday, go back to the office, do the same thing. And then have, more practice again. Thursday, go back to the office. And then Thursday night, we'd have church for 4 fucking hours, right? Wow. Okay? And then on Friday, oh, yay, kind of a day off, awesome. But then we'd go to the pastor's house for 8 hours in the evening. Because, we have to have our righteous party at the pastor's house instead of everyone else going out and partying on Friday nights. And living life. Wow. Gosh. There's so much abuse going on within the church in those days. Sexual abuse, drug abuse. That didn't matter or help. And then Saturday, we'd do chores all day long, and I wouldn't get to play or even have any of my own time and my own home. Great. And then Sunday, church for 8 hours. Wow. And then do it all over again. Over and over and over, right? It's all outsourced. My childhood was outsourced. Gosh, I hate the church times in my childhood. I hate them so much. So parents, with your children, don't outsource their education. Be a part of it. Be a part of your ENTP's life. You need to be there for them within their SI inferior. You need to raise their SI inferior. So, what is SI inferior? SI inferior, more than anything else, is fear of change. Your job as the parent is to get your ENTP child to accept suffering, to be comfortable in the context of suffering, or comfortable in any location and in any situation. All right? It's very, very important. Because if you don't do that, they will be depraved. The depravity is still a huge issue with ENFPs, but it's a huge issue with ENTPs too. And they get so self-centered and so self-focused that these ENTP children think the entire world revolves around them. Gosh, I did that all the time. I remember one time my mom came to spank me and whatnot, and I retaliated against her. And I took this big stick and I attacked her with this stick. And I was like a 3-year-old, a literal 3-year-old doing this. So disrespectful. I only really respond, it didn't matter if people took choices away from me. It didn't matter if they'd tell me to go to my room. The only thing that worked was physical contact with me. The only thing that worked. My parents had to beat my ass so many times with wooden implements and otherwise, and mix in public shaming with it because of how insolent and insubordinate and a rogue I was. Because I lacked self-discipline. And it was always about how many Reese's Puffs I could get. When can I get a marshmallow? When can I get Juji fruits out of Grandma's drawer? Always lying and sneaking snacks behind people's backs. Always. Competing with my sister. Putting my SI above the SI of my sister. It was all about what I could get all the time. Take what you can, give nothing back. My INTJ shadow wayfare thievery happening. Over and over and over. Gosh, I was such a menace. I regret who I was. I'm disgusted by who I was. This is not who I am, and it's not who I want to be. But it definitely was who I was. So depraved. Because an ENTP needs to understand the process of earning things. Don't just give things to your ENTP without them earning it first. You have to show SI inferior that it has to put in effort. And if they do it wrong, you make them do it again. My dad would always tell me, son, you need to learn how to do things right the first time. Damn it, he was right. And I was always trying to cut corners with my INTJ shadow every single time, being movement. He was so outcome focused, and luckily my mother was outcome focused, that he was able to put an end to that. I remember now that I teach people now do things right the first time. Yeah, I was the one person out of anyone that never did. I was always cutting corners. Always trying to see what I could get away with. Life was all about what I could get away with. It was almost as if you couldn't tell the difference between me or like some kind of ENFP. Always on the take. You know, the sleazy used car salesman, right? That's, you know, introverted sensing inferior depravity is a serious issue. Gosh, and we whine like a little bitch every single time. And I did. My STP cousins gave me so much crap about that. Talk about how weak I was all the time. And it's because I never understood anything about putting an effort into things or earning things. After a while, my dad became so fed up with it that he just gave up. That's like the worst thing you can do. Don't give up. He gave up on me. And that just led to even more depravity. I was always on the take, and I became super entitled, super depraved. And I had these expectations all the time. I became so entitled to other people. Entitled to their time, entitled to their words, entitled to their desires. You know, when I wish I had learned from my parents that, you know, that I should be careful who I give my attention to, that I should be careful who I am loyal to. You know, it's because of my depraved behavior that I ended up being molested by my cousins as a child on a consistent basis from 5 years old to 14 years old. It's absolutely ridiculous how this kept on happening. But when it did, I would end up developing Stockholm Syndrome and keep going back to my abuser over and over and over. To the point where I was defending them, lying for them, stealing for them. Gosh. And then they betrayed me afterwards. I remember my ISFP cousin telling people at school about what she did to me and bragging about it. Gosh. I was definitely ostracized and exiled then, right? Unbelievable. No, it's very believable. All because I put my faith in the wrong things. All because I wasn't really shown a path about how to earn. See, that's the thing about ENTPs. We don't understand how. Extroverted sensing is the how. Extrovert intuition is the why. ENTPs, we know the why, but we don't know the how. You have to show us how to do something. You have to show us how to earn. You have to show us how to put in the effort. You have to show us how to maximize our efforts so that we get the most return on our investment with time spent, time invested. If you do this, you show us how we can earn it ourselves instead of being entitled or expecting to receive things from other people. This is the difference between a depraved ENTP versus an ENTP who has self-discipline. Because the type of child that needs to be taught good things come to those who wait, that's an ENTP. But the ENTP at the same time needs to be taught how to wait. And what kind of effort that they're putting in. Effort is everything, right? It's funny. I'm married to an ESTP with SE Hero. An ESTP who tells me that she doesn't know anyone who can outwork me. She doesn't know anyone who can put more effort in than I can. She doesn't know anyone who has more self-discipline than I can. I've had to suffer so much. I lost and burned all of my 20s to gain those skills. I could have been taught those things in my childhood. I could have. I just needed my parents to do that and not give up on me. And no, I'm not laying blame here. They didn't understand me. They still don't. I forgive them. It's not necessarily their fault. They did the best they could with someone like me. But the reality of the situation is that I needed to be encouraged and forced, even forced against my will, to put in a higher effort to earn everything so that I could understand what my own power was capable of. That's the thing. It's like what I taught in my recent Confessions of an ENTP episode, is that sometimes an ENTP has to pass this rite of passage such that they have to be willing to burn down their entire life and literally have everything taken away from them so that they can see if they can handle it. And they can. Just like it says in Return of Jafar. Iago, when they think Iago has been killed by Jafar the genie, he says, quote, "You'd be surprised what you could live through." That's the point. That's the main point. SI inferior will be surprised what it can live through. It spends its whole time avoiding change. It tries to get everyone else to wait on it. It gets everyone else to serve it and its comforts and its creature comforts and its safety all the time. When it needs to be literally forced out of the cave. You know Plato's allegory of the cave? You force them right out. You just kick them right out the door. You know, kind of like a mama bird pushing their young right out of the nest. It's the same thing. You have to force your ENTP child to stand on their own strength. or else they will not have strength. You have to make them put in the effort. You have to make them earn everything they get. Otherwise, they'll be depraved. And then no one will want them. No one will value them. And then they will feel alone at all times. This is my past. This is my childhood. This is how I live my life. Because no one bothered to show me how. I needed someone to show me how. In fact, no one showed me how until my ISCP cousin came around when I was homeless. God bless him. He helped me start my first business, my first meaningful one. He helped me realize that I shouldn't fake it until I make it, but actually do the work and actually work hard. And then my ESTP mentor came around, taught me manhood and what it is to be a man. My INFJ mentor came around just to teach me about the importance of consistency and loyalty, right? But that's the thing, ENTP children, we don't put in the effort because comfort, right? This is literally how we live our lives. Comfort. Oh, it's gross. Gosh. You know, we're so, like, especially the ENTP males are so beta. We don't understand alpha traits. Alpha traits like hard work and effort, right? We know the why, but the why ain't very much without the how, and we have to have our introverted sensing grown so that we understand the how. We are habits. Parents, you have to build in healthy habits into the SI inferior, healthy routines into the introverted sensing of your ENTP. They're going to get really mad at you if you order something for them at Burger King and they didn't have the opportunity to TI every little detail of what's on it that they're comfortable with eating. Sometimes you just have to give them the choice. You're going to eat this or you're going to starve, because their SI inferior's fear of change and fearing food, and then they realize that the food actually tastes good for once. Okay? You're just going to have to do that. You're going to have to force them to earn. You're going to have to force them to be their own person, to stand up on their own. A great way to do this is you tell them that they don't have a choice, but they will attend martial arts and they will do well in it. Even under the threat of punishment, if you have to. Okay? That sounds horrible, but you have to do that because a ENTP must be disciplined at all costs, at all times. If not, they will be depraved. And there's nothing more undesirable than someone like them who is so depraved, so self-centered. They put their own comfort above everybody else. And sure, an ENTP in their adulthood, even when they're normal and like healthy, yeah, they still do that in some ways. But it's not like from this megalomania that their INTJ shadow has. You can't do that. So please keep that in mind. Teaching them self-discipline, teaching them to persevere, teaching them steadfastness is everything. Never, as a parent, never, ever bail out your ENTP child. Ever. Make them suffer the consequences of their actions every single time. Make them feel the full force. Do not bail them out. If you bail them out, you will make them depraved. You can't do that. But then adolescence will come. And then the ego will begin to protect itself and its investments. Hopefully you taught them self-discipline. Because if they have that self-discipline, they'll become an amazing human being. And they won't have to suffer burning their 20s away just to learn self-discipline, just to learn maturity, just to learn manhood or womanhood. And they don't have to waste all that time in their life to that end. Hopefully. Hopefully not. Well, if you did that, if you're doing that, things will be ready. Because here's the thing, as soon as a child hits adolescence, their ego becomes shut off to you, the parent, which means you can't affect anything, and it's too late. If their SI inferior is not developed enough, and if they're too depraved, oh well, that's your fault as a parent, because you didn't invest enough in their ego when they were a child, but now they're an adolescent. Their ego will protect itself. So that if you ever did anything like forcing self-discipline upon their SI inferior during adolescence, they will come to hate you. They will hate you. And your child will harbor hatred towards you. Is that what you want as a parent? I don't think so. So you make sure you teach your SI inferior ENTP self-discipline hardcore before they hit adolescence. And when adolescence comes, you need to teach your child. TI parent. See, adolescence is when the parent function is supposed to develop. But usually it doesn't. Not in this society, and definitely not with ENTPs. Because oftentimes we adopt the traditions of our families without verifying. Because our parent function is the last function our ego to develop. So we haven't verified that much with it. You need to understand as a parent, it's your job to encourage that verification. But doing so may cause them to lash out at you because they're adolescents. So instead, whenever it comes to them making decisions, you have to show them research, data, statistics to back up what you're saying. You have to prove every single thing you are saying to them. Give them books. Gosh, making an ENTP read books as part of developing their SI inferior self-discipline during their childhood, that's a big one. But books, making them sharp, that's also important for TI parent development. So bring them articles, bring them books, bring them sources that prove to them, you have to prove an ENTP. Because as soon as they hit adolescence, you have to prove an ENTP for the rest of your life. It can be exhausting. And a lot of people don't like it because it shows parents of ENTPs just how ignorant they are themselves as they're trying to deal with the ignorance of their ENTP child. To the point that when parents are forced to do the research that they need to hit the TE critic of their ENTP child so that through cognitive orbit their TI parent starts to develop, those parents start to realize just how ignorant they actually are themselves. And a lot of people out there can't do that because they're too busy protecting their own egos in their post-adolescent life. And because they're protecting their own egos, they don't want to spend the time to do the research to prove their own children wrong, lest they find that what they believe is actually wrong and their children are actually right. You know, that happened in the book of Job with the young man criticizing Job and his friends. You might want to consider reading that and understanding that concept. It'd be very valuable for you. It's valuable for everyone. Please understand that in order to develop TI parent within their ego, you have to attack and target their critic, because cognitive orbit is like the back door into the ego. By attacking the critic function, the parent function starts to wake up, it starts to develop, it gets better. And you really need an ENTP verifying everything, especially in adolescence. You want your ENTP daughter to have teen pregnancy because she's loyal to a drug addict? Loyal to the wrong person? Maybe because she lacked self-discipline? Well, see, you're going to have to get her to verify. Well, in order for her to verify whether or not that person is a healthy person, you need to provide data, statistics, studies, experts, and bring that to your daughter and pressure her. Even if watch a documentary on it, turn the volume to max so that you know that your daughter can hear it while you're watching it, and then she'll listen. And then all of a sudden, she's like, oh, I need to change. Because remember, if you can get a parent to realize that you're 100% correct about something, that TI parent will have no choice but to change, and it'll do a 180-degree turn in their behavior. And then she'll go break up with the guy the next day. Who knows? And then you probably prevented teen pregnancy right there, you see? Gosh, it's so easy to obligate an ENTP into sex. It's so easy to obligate an ENTP into anything. Anything. Is constantly railing on me about how I let people obligate me into doing things. Since I've known her, I've gotten rid of a ton of people in my life, and a lot of stress along with it because of these people obligating me to do things, and I'm not getting anything back in return. I'm very thankful, very, very thankful to that end. All these things are super important. Just, you have to attack TE critic in the adolescents. Get them to verify. Because if you're providing knowledge to them that's counter to what their actions are doing, their parent will wake up and be like, oh, I should probably verify this. I should probably listen for a bit and see if they're actually what they're saying is true. Out of all of the 16 types, the types that benefit the most from criticism are NTPs. To the point that if you criticize an ENTP, even to the point of making them super uncomfortable, even in their adolescence, they may hate you for it in that moment, but they will thank you in their 20s. They will tell you how important it was that you criticized them. I do this all the time to people, where I thank them for criticizing me, for keeping the depravity at bay, and keeping the ignorance at bay. Because if you don't do this, we've talked a lot about depravity already, but if you don't do this, their TI will be underdeveloped, and then their brains will become an echo chamber, where they will literally only listen to things that matches what they already think. It's called preferred input. It's the first sign of TI ignorance. And an underdeveloped parent, this is what happens with ENTPs. This is terrible. And another way is when they make decisions based on last known input, which is known as lazy thinking, lazy TI. They're not getting enough input, either because they don't have TE users around them, or they themselves are not doing enough research. So yeah, tell your ENTP adolescent, great. You know how you have self-discipline? You want a car? Go earn it. You want a phone? Go earn it. You have to earn it. Make the effort. Make the effort. But if you're not going to make the effort, well, then you're not going to be happy. You're not going to have a car. You're not going to drive. That's a problem, right? And if they're insubordinate, take away their comforts. Be like, those comforts are privileges. You have to earn those. You have to earn those comforts. If you're not going to earn those comforts, they're going to be taken away from you, as long as you're under my roof. That's just reality. Get over it. It's a hard line, and you have to take a hard line with an ENTP, but you have to, otherwise, think of the people that they will become. Benjamin Franklin, Adolf Hitler, really? Like, you have to understand just how powerful and how brilliant an ENTP can be. Steve Jobs is an ENTP. I'm able to even talk to you right now. I'm recording this on an iPhone, right? Steve Jobs is an ENTP. He's pretty brilliant. What are you doing, right? What are you doing? So, guys, understand just how crucial it is ENTPs are parented properly. Make them research. Present them with research so that their parent can grow. Allow them to make their own decisions. But you also don't bail them out of the consequences of those decisions either, at all. Don't give an ENTP money. Don't give an ENTP anything. If they're hoping for some things or they want some things, and they do because of NI nemesis, they just need to be shown how they can get it on their own. That will keep them from being depraved. That will keep them from being entitled. And then criticize them. Criticize them and offer research that challenges their thinking so that they can grow. If you do these things, you will have an amazing ENTP. An amazing ENTP. An ENTP who gives freedom to other people. An ENTP who is always walking in truth. An ENTP who actually helps and cares about other people. An ENTP who takes responsibility for meeting their own needs, having personal standards, enforcing personal boundaries, and then after those three things, engaging and going after their own personal goals. And then they will have self-respect and full confidence in who they are. You'll have an ENTP who can persevere and be steadfast and endure literally any hardship. And they will. And they will for the rest of their lives. Amazing. They can be amazing people. You don't want them to turn out like I did. You don't want them to have to burn through their 20s. You don't want them to live the life that I have with homelessness, those things. All these bad hardships which serve as major lessons to ENTPs to help them develop their self-discipline and help them verify everything. Well, this can happen, and they'll have to trial and error their way through life. But you can stop all of that from happening if you just raise them and teach them in the way that they need to be raised and taught. All of it. They won't have to suffer in the same way I had to in order to reach adulthood or manhood, in order for me to have my own strength of character, in order for me to walk in the truth and not live a lie constantly. Otherwise, they'll just cut corners. Otherwise, they'll wear a mask with everyone. Otherwise, everything they say is literally a lie. You don't want that. If you don't do these things, if you don't raise them in the appropriate way, you are guaranteeing that they will have midlife crisis. Midlife crisis comes from an underdeveloped inferior function. And then they'll have quarter life crisis, which comes from an underdeveloped parent function, which is where personal responsibility comes from. Your ENTP needs to know that it is their duty and their responsibility to verify literally everything, even you. Trust me, with how loyal they are, they're so loyal. If you do it right, they'll never abandon you. They'll always be there for you in your old age. They will take care of you in their old age. And that'd be brilliant. You can have that. You can have that with an ENTP child. If you want that, well, then I suggest you follow my advice. Give them the self-discipline. Force self-discipline down their throats. And then criticize them and provide them with research that backs up your criticisms of their behavior in their adolescence. And keep going. And then they will turn out to be amazing, mature adults. Fantastic people. Loyal people. Able to endure and work through anything, trial and error and experiment through anything. Recognize that their life is literally just one big experiment. Trialing and erring everything so that they can find the truth. Understand that. Anyway, folks, that concludes this episode of Season 23. If you found this lecture useful, helpful, educational, enlightening, please leave a comment. We really very much value all of the feedback. Thank you all for being a part of this community. We really, really appreciate it. So, anyway, folks, I knew this one was a little bit longer, but it is what it is. So, anywho, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later tonight.